gaining financial literacy is super empowering. I think it's very important, and it doesn't matter where you're at in life. Just, look at it, get on it. It's a lot, and it doesn't matter where you're starting. If you're starting at the rock bottom,
Mhm.
perfect. Let's start.
If you've never understood your finances, thought about any of what we're talking about today, and now all of a sudden divorce is on the table, you can do it. You can learn, and you can slowly, one step at a time, create financial freedom for yourself. And wow, feels great.
Divorce can be emotionally and financially overwhelming. That's why I'm teaming up with Sunny Wishart, president and founder of A la carte Financial and a certified financial planner. We will show you how to understand all things money without feeling ashamed, overwhelmed, embarrassed. You will learn more, ask questions. No question is a dumb question. Welcome to Money with Sunny. Let's get into it.
Welcome to Money with Sunny. My name is Wendy Rovers. I'm a divorce coach and founder of Divorce Thrive. And I'd like to welcome you today, Sunny. Sunny Wishart is an advice-only financial planner with A la carte Financial. Today, we're going to talk to you about how you can proactively address and recognize 11 challenges that women face and how you can work towards achieving financial equality and security. So, Sunny, what are the 11 challenges that women need to recognize in order for them to achieve financial security in their life?
There's quite a few things, but we're going to start with the first one of the gender pay gap subject, which, to be clear, I don't have the answers to these things, but I think, like we were just talking about, recognizing these things is a really awesome stepping stone and not just sweeping these things under the rug. The toughest thing I hear, and this is from people across all career fields, it's not like it's an isolated industry that you see this in. It's across the board. Things like pay gaps or glass ceilings. I hear this, I see this, and it's really tough because we need to just first know if it's happening to you. So if you think I'm here on this team and my colleagues who are male are definitely have more earnings than me, you need to address this and stop our people pleasing. I think that's kind of where personally I come from, and I've also seen this myself, that the people pleasing takes over and we don't ask for what we deserve. We may deserve not just more pay, but more benefits, more leaves, more vacations, or more flexibility. The nice thing we saw coming out of pandemic life was that people are doing this more and more. They are stepping up saying, hey, things are expensive. I need more money. And I certainly hope that women are participating in this as well. Because you're working just as hard, you're putting the time in, you have goals or whatnot and mandates for your work. And if you're achieving those, then and there's a gap, you have to ask. One of my mottos I heard from this fella years and years ago, he said, if you don't ask, you don't get.
Hmm.
And it stuck with me forever because that's across everything in the board. If I'm not going to ask, you're not going to get it.
Hmm. I was working with a client towards end of last year. She realized that some of the men on her team, some of the guys she was working with, were earning $5,000 a year more than she was. It just came up in like a lunch conversation or a beer after work or whatever. And so she came up with a plan. We had a chat like end of the summer, and she came up with a plan to bring to her boss all of the work that she does every day and all the value that she adds to the company. And she brought that to her boss, and she said, I'm worth more than this. and she got the bump in pay. So 2024 is a great start. So you're right. When it comes to people pleasing and just staying quiet, women tend to often play it small. We just take what we can get. We stay quiet. We want to keep the peace. We are making an income, and that's enough. So you got to step into that ownership mindset and say, I have to do the work, and I've got to provide equal value to my work. And if I'm doing that, then I deserve the same pay. So just a little idea, and it worked for her, and it's worked for me in my life. And yeah, it's something to recognize. So what's the second area that women need to pay attention to?
So the second one is retirement savings disparities. So where you just have less retirement savings because XYZ factors, but the most common trend is because you've had career interruptions, you've been caregiving, um, you're looking after the kids. I have a lot of new moms right now and they don't want to go back to work. The kids are so important. All that other stuff isn't important. And I 1,000% agree with them. If this is something important to them, they want to stay home. Great. Let's look at the numbers. But yes, he's going to continue out there in the workforce, building up his retirement savings, keeping his time on career, not having that gap in career. And you're going to be home and your savings is you're going to probably end up quitting it because you're not working, you're not contributing anymore. Now, that's fine when you're married because marital assets. That's okay. This picture looks okay. It's when there is a division of assets. So there's an equalization during the divorce process. Okay, so that gets said and done. Things are split. You put in that I spent XYZ child rearing years. So you still get equalized a portion of his assets he's accumulated while you took care of everything else. And but then what? You've got to go back to work. You haven't been in a workforce in 8 years. You're starting an 8-year younger career. During these years where his career just launched, he could have taken 4 promotions in that time. So you're left starting lower. And then you're also left explaining to a potential employer why you haven't been in the workforce so long. You have to make excuses for yourself. I have seen this where she wants to go back to work, but she's been off for a long time. And the workforce is like, well, where have you been?
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to start you down here. Here's your 2 weeks vacation a year. It's just like entry level all over again. And then to continue to accumulate your savings as well. So now you're on your own. Your bills are higher because you're on your own. And then you have to continue to accumulate savings. And he's got all these matching programs with work that are just snowballing larger and larger. And you do feel like you're starting over again. So this is where things like spousal support come into play, where you have to look at the opportunity cost of what you've lost in those years to run a nice, well-oiled household and what that's going to cost you going forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's something to consider if you're starting out your career and you're going to be raising a family. Ask yourself some important questions, right from the beginning. But if you're in the position now where you have been at home raising your children, taking care of the family, and now having to step back into the workforce, it's never too late. You can do it, but you have to recognize the cause and effect. So the action, the decision that you chose to stay home is now going to affect your financial status. Yep. Number 3.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's longevity and healthcare costs. So these women tend to live longer than men. So that means, more costs as you're older. And the thing with these kinds of things, when you're looking at late in life, you don't know what kind of cards you're going to be dealt. You don't know what you're going to have to consider because this is not up to us how our health is going to play out. We can do our best. There's no crystal ball to the extent of healthcare needs we're going to have to look at or account for. So this
And
is where
it's good to understand that women do live longer than men typically. So we need to just recognize that fact and plan for it,
Mhm.
right? So that's the bottom
That's
line.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And a strategy that I end up deploying a lot is using the home. So if you own a home, that home is amazing leverage to cover these types of costs that are
Mhm.
unknown.
Perfect. And what's the number 4 things women should understand and recognize?
So the fact that we're the caregiving, the responsibilities for the kids or aging parents or whoever, it tends to lean heavily on us to take over these roles. And then balancing work. So, making sure your career is still on track, but you're financially okay, and then taking care of everything else.
Yeah, so
So,
that impact of
mhm,
caregiving for parents, children, usually falls on the woman and impacts their financial stability and impacts their career progression along the way as well. Absolutely. And number
mhm.
5, what's the number 5 area that women need to recognize and be aware of?
So workplace discrimination, it's a very real thing where it can limit your career. Um, I have been personally, that's happened to me. I applied for a promotion and I was going through a divorce, and my employer said, You have too much personal stuff going on. And they overlooked me.
Mm.
Hmm.
So use your voice.
Hmm.
Men in the workforce use their voice and feel confident. Women in the workforce often don't use their voice and feel confident. Let them know, let your boss know that yes, you're transitioning through divorce, but it will not affect your work or the quality of your work. And stand strong in that conviction. Believe it yourself. Yeah, that's huge. Number 6.
My favorite, financial literacy. We as women, we just tend to not bone up on our finances as much as men. So gaining financial literacy is super empowering. I think it's very important. And it doesn't matter where you're at in life. Just, look at it, get on it. It's a lot. And it doesn't matter where you're starting. If you're starting at the rock bottom,
Mm-hmm.
perfect. Let's start.
Read the books, listen to the podcasts, reach out to the financial experts such as yourself. Learn. You can do it. Yeah, very important. And number 7.
Divorce and widowhood. So this is where I find we're often super vulnerable.
Mm,
So it's a really tough time to then all of a sudden be put in the throes of having to learn and read the
mm-hmm,
books and do the things. So
mm-hmm,
do that, do those things now. Don't wait until you're in this vulnerable position where your emotions are high.
mm-hmm. And know that if you've never understood your finances, thought about any of what we're talking about today, and now all of a sudden divorce is on the table, you can do it. You can learn, and you can slowly, one step at a time, create financial freedom for yourself. And wow, feels great. Yeah, it feels great. Number 8.
So it's a lack of investment confidence. So, oftentimes we're just not as confident making these investment decisions. And I think we get made up to more than it is. There are all kinds of really neat things now that you can do investing wise. That's a set it, forget it. You don't have to be so overwhelmed by what's available out there. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of stuff we can do. You don't have to be an investment whiz. You don't have to look at companies and cherry pick stocks. there are some really great sideline investing things. And so it doesn't have to be scary.
Yeah. And like, you know, when I was growing up, conversations about money were for the men, and conversations about everything else, feelings, fun, being a mom, cleaning this, taking care of that was all conversations for the women. And I can tell you that when I go out with my friends, my girlfriends, you know, the times that we talk about money are 20%, 80% of the time talking about, uh, travel and kids and, what we're up to at work. But we don't have these discussions around stocks and investment and where to put our money and how to grow our wealth. You know, that's usually men do. That's what they talk about. They don't sit around talking about their feelings, what's up with the children and how it's affecting them. It's just different conversations. So get yourself around other women who are having these money conversations, or get yourself at the guys' table and have these conversations. They're important. They're really important. Number 9.
Debt and financial stress.
Mm,
So, you're feeling stressed about your money or your credit cards or how much you owe, and you feel like I'm too far in life to have these kinds of numbers in red. So I find and then we get overwhelmed. So I like to just start with making ends meet. That's
mhm.
all I want you to do. Don't look at anything else. Just make the ins and the outs every month line up and just start there and be calm. Because once you nail that, you don't need to be stressed anymore. You've got this.
Yeah, it's the little wins, right? Like anytime you look at something that seems so overwhelming and so big, you're like, "Whoa, I can't do that." Well, that can be broken down into a really small step. And then before you know it, you can do that, one little step at a time. So it's breaking it down, but that's why they need to speak with you. That's why you're transitioning through divorce. You need to speak with a money expert so that you can bring that down to first level and get that win, move it up, next win, next win, next win. And before you know it, you understand your finances. You're growing your wealth for yourself and your family, and you're financially free. So it's one small step at a time. It's not a big whoa. And often women, when we hit that we just shut down. You're like, okay, forget it. If I can't, I can't go there. I'm just not even going to go there. So don't do that. You need to learn. You need to create financial independence for yourself, and it is one step at a time, just like Sunny said. Number 10.
Oh, I feel this one. Entrepreneurship challenges. You run your own business. This is a super volatile place to be. And that old saying of saving for a rainy day is very real in our world.
Mm,
Uh, and I think entrepreneurs struggle most with what I call smoothing out their incomes because you got good days and bad days.
mhm.
So we need to have a nest egg. You have to, that's the first place to start. I know we need capital, we need resources and all that stuff, but like let's build that nest egg in whatever form that looks like to smooth out everything.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And number 11, what's the final thing that we'd like to make women be aware of when it comes to achieving financial equality and security?
Yeah, so we're going to talk about mat leaves, career impacts. Just like nowadays, mat leaves in Canada are upwards of 18 months. That's a year and a half. Now, the nice thing is things like the Canada Pension Plan, when you apply for that when you're 60 or 65, they have years that you can omit because of mat leave. So they're not going to count that against you or against your entitlements. But then there's people who are like, they have the pension plans, like teachers. I see they would say, for example, teachers, they take a year off And then when they go back to work, they've lost a year of pension contributions. And then the pension board says, you can have it back, but we'd like $15,000, please. And do you know what you have when you just started daycare and going back to work after a year off work? $15,000 kicking around. So you've lost a year of pensionable earnings.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, then you have another kid. And then now they want $28,000 or $30,000 for 2 years pensionable buybacks. And I know men are eligible for these leaves, but face it, 95% are women taking these leaves. So 95% of women are taking these hits to these pension entitlements.
Mm-hmm. So by understanding these 11 challenges, you can just take a look at your unique situation, make best choices from there, and figure out how you can become financially independent, grow your wealth, and live an exciting life. Thanks for chatting with us today about this, Sunny. It's been great, informative, and thanks everyone for being here. We'll see you again next week.